ki I, Anupriya Yadav, Assistant Professor, Amity Law School, Amity University, welcomes you all in today's webinar on the topic Reducing Inequalities, Advancing Human Rights to commemorate Human Rights Day organized by Amity Law School, Amity University, Lucknow campus. He is a sculptor of human character, a seasoned scholar and navigator of this flagship of knowledge. Your consistent support for academics, knowledge, developmental standpoint, and your sheer presence in the event has raised the overall standard of the program. Our director, Professor Dr. Jaiprakash Yadav, sir. Sir, I request you to please welcome our guest speaker and assistant professor, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anupriya, for your kind words. Good afternoon to one and all present on this virtual platforms. Indeed, it is my pleasure to welcome today on the eve of Human Rights Day. 10 December 1948, the UDHR became a reality and on international arena. On this occasions, Amity Law School celebrated the Human Rights Day with the esteemed guest speaker, Professor Dr. P.T. Mishra, Head and Dean of Department of Human Rights, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar Central University, Lucknow. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am, on this virtual platforms. I also extend my warm welcome to our Honorable Assistant Pro Vice Chancellor, Wing Commander, Professor Dr. Anil K. Tiwari, sir. He is always be kind towards Amity Law School and myself. A hearty welcome to you, sir. I also welcome to all the faculty member of Amity Law Schools. Without their support, it is not possible to organize any events. So I welcome all the esteemed faculty member of Amity Law School and also the student of first year from all the domains BA LLB, BBA LLB, BCom LLB, LLM first year and LLB 3 year. All are welcome over this virtual platforms. Indeed, Human Rights Day is celebrating from the inception of 10th of December 1948 to till date, and since then from 1948 the first category of right which were declared, that is also known as the first generation right. That right were actually the civil and political rights, and most of the constitution incorporate civil and political rights in their own constitutions. And later on in 70s, they have declared the social, economic and cultural rights as a second generation rights. In second generation rights, the UDHR focus on to evolve the social and economic and cultural rights. And lastly, the third category of right, that is third generation right, that is right of solidarity. Solidarity right is nothing but also incorporate so many rights like right to development, right to peace, right to healthy environment, humanitarian assistance. These all are the latest rights which are considered or acknowledged by the UDHR. And actually the right is actually a phenomena which is more popular among the heterogeneous society. So always the society try to bring the homogeneity in society. India is also a heterogeneous society, so therefore our constitution maker gave a place not only in the preamble of the Indian constitution but also in part 3rd, that is the fundamental right. Right to equality is a very much there from article 14 to 18, which realizes this time theme, that is reducing inequality and advancing human rights. The inequality can be reduced only to bring the justice among the society, and justice should be political, economical and social, and that can be achieved when we reach to all to the last person of this society. And we have to reduce the inequality and we can make the homogeneous society, then only we can enjoy the fullest the human right as well as the fundamental right. With this opening remark, I would like to welcome once again our honorable guest speaker, Professor P.T. Mishra ji. Once again, welcome you. And now over to Anupriya to continue this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words. He is a man of distinct vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge, experience, and inspiration to all of us. We admire your spirit of integrity with 100% dedication to the world of education. You are an inspiration to many of us and will continue to remain so. We place on record our record to your presence as a valuable input to our today's event. It is our privilege that we have amongst us today our Honorable Assistant Pro Vice Chancellor Sir, Wing Commander Dr. Anil Kumar Tiwari, whose valuable guidance is cherished by all of us. I welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anupriya, for such nice words and welcome.
Yes, sir.
Our honored guest speaker this afternoon, Professor Preeti Mishra ji, Professor Dr. Jaiprakash J.P. Yadav ji, all my learned colleagues and participants of this webinar. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to be part of this Human Rights Day celebration on this virtual platform. What better way to celebrate but to engage a very large number of students and to sensitize them and to let them participate in this celebration of Human Rights Day through this very useful and relevant webinar, where we're talking about reducing inequalities and advancing human rights. Inequalities anywhere, injustice anywhere are real threats to the existence of human civilizations. Let me put it across in these many stern terms. Inequality in any form would result into grievances, and these grievances would turn into practices which will inhibit and retard our growth as a society, our growth as a nation, and our collective growth as humanity. Today, the world is so interconnected, the world is so dependent on each other that rights do become the building block of a justifiable society. Rights, human rights, not only in India, but elsewhere, need to be respected with highest rigor. And I'm happy that there is an intellectual discussion, stimulation on that particular aspect. This is so very important in the modern world because we are so very dependent. And this has been highlighted in the pandemic times. It is said that pandemic cannot be removed from the face of earth till all nations have an equal opportunity to medical and health services. Unless the health services, including vaccination, is provided to each and every one, the inequality would produce and nurture not human growth, but misery. So I'm really very fortunate to be part of this webinar where there is going to be a tremendous intellectual stimulation on this particular topic. My compliments to Amity Law School and Professor Yadav for having organized this wonderful event. All the best, a great learning to all of you. Thank you very much for making me part of this webinar. Over to you, Anupriya.
We are honored by your presence on this occasion, sir. Sincerely, thank you for your enlightening words. Now, without any further ado, let's welcome our guest speaker for the webinar. For today's webinar on the topic on reducing inequalities, advancing human rights, we are extremely privileged to have a renowned and distinguished personality, Professor Dr. Preeti Mishra ma'am, heading the Department of Human Rights, School for Legal Studies, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow. Ma'am is a postgraduate in economics and has done her LLM from the University of Lucknow. She has done her LLD on domestic violence against women in India from University of Lucknow. Her research interest lies in the field of women and gender issues, ethnic, minority, marginalized sections of society, human rights of rural and urban poor, family violence, aging, education, environment, HIV/AIDS, criminal justice administration, and victimology, to name a few. She has more than 18 years of experience in university and college teaching and developmental fields. She has 89 research articles published in different research journals of national and international repute, touching upon various aspects of human rights on various social, cultural, and developmental issues. Besides this, ma'am has presented nearly 90 papers in national and international seminars and conferences. She is the supervisor and guide of PhD students on women and other human rights issues concerning administration of criminal justice. Along with this, ma'am has also co-chaired a session on the theme Human Rights and Multicultural Society Continuum, a Global Approach in IA World Congress of Humanity, Development and Cultural Diversity, which was held in Kunming, China, to name a few. Ma'am has also delivered various radio talks in program of FM 105.6 MHz and Gyanvani channel on CCP ACS01, application-oriented courses in consumer studies, on All India Radio and as well as on HIV/AIDS. Along with this, ma'am has received Certificate of Excellence for academic distinction as a student as well as a teacher. She was conferred Certificate of Honor for writing work by All Press and Writers Association, Lucknow, Certificate of Honor for attaining first position in Carom singles in Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University Annual Sports Day, and the Certificate of Appreciation conferred by Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University for publishing research works in the journals with high impact factor. Besides this, ma'am is also the member of various academic bodies and is being presided over by the chief guest in various academic functions and seminars. Her research work got published in the form of a book in the year 2006, which was entitled as Domestic Violence Against Women, Legal Control and Judicial Response by Deep and Deep Publications, New Delhi. Ma'am has written course material for Postgraduate Diploma in Criminal Justice, a course run by School of Law, IGNOU, Delhi. Recently, ma'am has edited two books of Ratan Lal and Dheeraj Lal, Law of Crime, a commentary on Indian Penal Code as a co-editor, and as well as Marriage Laws and Family Codes Act as co-editor. Ma'am has also assisted in revising various titles of Constitution, CPC, Evidence Transfer of Property Act, Pacific Relief Act, to name a few. So now, without taking any more time, may I have the pleasure of inviting our guest, Dr. Preeti Mishra ma'am, to take over the forum.
So first of all, I would like to thank Yadavji for inviting me here on this auspicious occasion of International Human Rights Day. First of all, congratulations to all of you for organizing this special lecture and commemorating this important international day. The theme that has been given to me is reducing inequalities, advancing human rights. So the Human Rights Day is marked every year, as you all know, on the 10th of December to commemorate the day on which United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And since 1948, this UDHR that we know in brief has always stood as a beacon and a standard for a better world and has dominated human rights thinking. 10th of December every year reaffirms the fundamental commitments of the UDHR. It proposes ways in which these commitments can be carried forward to meet new challenges for the advancement of human rights. International days and weeks are occasion to educate the public on the issues of concern, to mobilize political will and resources to address global problems and to celebrate and reinforce achievements of humanity. The UDHR is a milestone document which proclaims the inalienable rights that everyone is entitled to as a human being, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status. As we all know that this year's Human Rights Day theme relates to equality, reducing inequalities, advancing human rights, and the slogan which has been given by United Nations for the year is all human, all equal. So this principle of equality and non-discrimination are at the heart of human rights. Equality is also aligned with the Agenda of 2030 and with the United Nations approach to set out in the document shared framework on leaving no one behind, equality and non-discrimination at the heart of sustainable development. This includes addressing and finding solutions for deep-rooted forms of discrimination that have affected the most vulnerable people in societies, including women and girls, indigenous people, people of African descent, LGBTI people, migrants, people with disability, among others. So, this equality, inclusion, and non discrimination. In other words, a human right based approach to development is the best way to reduce inequalities and resume our path towards advancement of human rights in the 21st century, realizing the agenda of 2030, that is, planet 50-50 by 2030. Today, we need to renew and revitalize our efforts to realize the rights which are articulated in the Declaration due to enormous global change, increasing refugee crisis, the increasing threats of terrorism, extremism, violence against sexual religious minorities, and terrible abuse and sufferings of women and children, not only in private spheres but also in public spaces as well as in situation of conflicts. So, what is the meaning of equality? According to United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet, he says that equality means that we embrace our diversity and demand that all be treated without any kind of discrimination. So, equality does not mean that homogeneity, because we all know that in the nature we all are different. There are individual differences. So, this equality can only be a utopian concept unless and until we embrace the fact of diversity and treat each and everyone with the dignity. So, if we analyze this concept of equality within our constitutional scheme, that is within Article 14, it is a fundamental rights which is there in our constitution. And we all know that fundamental rights are nothing but the human rights, because all the fundamental rights are human rights. So, this right to equality has been given under Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. It guarantees to everyone the right to equality before law and equal protection of laws. And this not only extends to the citizens but to non-citizens also. Article 14 protects and extends to the prohibition of discrimination on the ground of religion, race, sex, caste, sex, or place of birth. So, this phrase, equality before the law, finds a place in all the written constitutions of the world that guarantee fundamental rights. All the citizens, irrespective of their birth, religion, sex, or race, are equal before the law. So, we have to say that there shall not be any kind of arbitrary discrimination between one citizen or the class of citizen and the other. So, all the citizens are equal before the law. According to Dr. Jennings, equality before the law means that to ensure equality among equals, the law should be equal for all and should be equally administered, like that life should be treated alike. In a case of Supreme Court, Stephens College versus University of Delhi, the Supreme Court said that equal protection of the laws is now being read as a positive obligation on the state to ensure equal protection of laws by bringing in necessary social and economic changes so that everyone may enjoy equal protection of the laws and nobody is denied such protection. And if the state leaves the existing inequality untouched by its laws, it fails in its duty of providing equal protection of laws to all the persons. A state must provide equal protection and equal opportunity to all the people who are citizens of India as well as non-citizen of India. And even in the case of Indra Sahni, the right to equality has been recognized, and in many other cases also, as a law student, you all know that it is a basic structure and basic feature of the Indian Constitution. So, the underlying principle of this concept of equality is that it is not the uniformity of treatment to all in all respect. It only means that all the persons similarly circumstanced shall be treated alike both in the privileges conferred and liabilities imposed by the laws. Any problem? Are you getting my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
I can see the faces that there is Some
Yes,
sort
ma'am.
of anxiety
Yes,
is
ma'am.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
So this
Guess
equal law, so this equal law should be applied to all in the same situation, and there should not be any kind of discrimination between one person and the another. So this Article 14 permits classification but prohibits class legislation. It says that all the laws must be general in character, but it does not mean that same law should apply to all the persons. In fact, identical treatment to unequal circumstances would amount to inequality. Thus, a reasonable classification is permitted for the development of the society. The classification must not be arbitrary, artificial, or evasive, but this must be based upon some real and substantial distinction, bearing a just and reasonable relation to the object sought to be achieved by the legislation. So, very nature of the pluralistic Indian society require different treatment of its people depending upon religion, race, caste, sex, etc. So, enactment of the laws must be in the best interest of the safety and security of the people. And we all know that our Article 15 Clause 3 permits a special legislation in favor of women and children, and it is nowhere it nowhere amounts to negation of the right to equality. So there are in our society there are various vulnerable sections who are facing human right violations. We have religious minorities, sexual minorities, person with disabilities, migrant workers, senior citizens, people who are faced with crimes because they are not getting fair trials. And now new category of vulnerable sections have come up during this COVID situation, that is the category of COVID patient. Because we all know that in the last 2 years, what happened? There was the dearth of oxygen, dearth of medicine, people were dying due to lack of medical facilities. So a new kind of vulnerable sections have come up in our society because of this present pandemic. So though the topic given to me is a general topic, but I have specified it to the injustices made to women in our society and how they are being treated unequally still in the 21st century, how they are being denied the right to equality, and what efforts have been made by the legislature as well as by the judiciary for the advancement of the human rights of women. So I have reframed the title of my presentation. It is Reducing Inequalities, Advancing Human Rights, with reference to changing dimensions of socio-economic justice and equality to women in India. And so this particular presentation of mine tries to analyze that what are the inequalities to which the women are faced with in Indian society, and how these inequalities have reduced for advancement of human rights for the women. And then what are different legal norms at the national level as the international level for ameliorating the conditions of women and entrusting them with their human rights. And I also highlighted in this presentation recent cases by the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court has tried to break the barriers which are there in our society which hinder a woman for accessing her human rights. So if we try to analyze the position of women in Indian society, we find that there is a kind of paradoxical situation. Though women are glorified as goddesses, they are to be adored and revered for all the virtues that they possess. But at the same time, they are also being brutalized. They are also being tortured. They are also being humiliated. So, if we look upon the situation of a woman in Indian society, we find that a kind of paradoxical situation is there. And over the years, this position of woman had degraded. Though we are in the 21st century, we are discussing the advancement of the human rights, still there are many women who are being denied their basic human rights. So though the women by nature are very, very affectionate, very, very sensitive and considerate, still they are subjected to many abuses and the exploitations. And the irony of the fact is that the women are not being tortured, not being humiliated, not being subjected to abuse by the men, but also by their fellow women. So it is both a intersex problem as well as intrasex problem. And that is the reason that so much legislation is there which have been enacted for the purpose of protecting the human rights of women. So if we look upon the socio-cultural context of women in India, it is a very, very complex mixture of old and that of the new. So numerous modern institutions of today rest on the base of traditional only. Because, for example, if you take the marriage institution, though the form of marriage has changed, various dimensions of relationships have also changed, but the kind of ceremonies are involved or the hype or the glamour which is there with the marriage institution, it is very, very traditional in nature. So in spite of the industrialization, globalization, urbanization and modernization, though it has helped in changing the position of women, but still the changes that have come are not only positive but negative also. So all this technological development, all the advancement which has been made in the field of human rights has impacted women not only in the positive way but in negative way also. So on the one hand, we have a liberalized economy which has offered better education, better jobs, decision-making power and various opportunities to the women. But on the other hand, women have been targets of strong backlash with increased violence both inside and outside the home. There is acute wage differentials and discrimination and increasing commodification of the women in the society. Besides, migration, reverse migration that we witnessed during this COVID situation, skewed sex ratio, environmental degradation, this all have also added to the women's vulnerable situation. And the fact is, in spite of so much progress made by women, though they are professional, they are working, they are Supreme Court judges, they are professors, they are vice chancellors, they are having good social and economic status in the society. But the fact is that India is still a male dominated society fraught with patriarchal attitude, in which economy, politics, religion, social and cultural institutions are still largely controlled by men. And the control over women's livelihood choices and sexuality has also existed and evolved over centuries through various discriminatory social practices and the institutions. Even today, women cannot have the marriage of her choice. She cannot choose the discipline which she wants to go into. So that kind of choices are still being governed by the family members or by the male members of the women. So a combination of family, caste, community and religion reinforce and legitimize the patriarchal values. And then there are stereotyping of women and their roles which continues in the public and private institutions. The media which has been there, whether it is the state media or the private media, though they have the huge potential to influence and change the mindset so far as the position of women is concerned, but unfortunately their role has not been utilized much for this purpose. So they also paint women sometime in negative picture. So this paradoxical situation of a socio-cultural and economic context of women is very, very alarming in India. Because on the one hand, they are being worshipped as goddesses, and on the other hand, they are being tortured, burnt for the dowry. We have intimate partner violence also. And even today, the boys are more desirable and they are seen as a support to their parents and in the old age. And the girls are still considered a kind of unwanted burden, though they are being used to support the brothers and men. But still they suffer in silence all kinds of atrocities and the abuses. They are subjected to marital rape even and to early marriages. And if they are breaking their silence, its repercussions are immense. They get back the violence in return. And discriminatory practices such as child marriages, honor killing, witch hunting, killing women as witches, and gender-based sex selection still continue, which indicate the profound vulnerability and inequality toward girls and women in Indian society. Though the fact is that in 21st century we are celebrating that all humans are equal. We have to remove inequalities and advance the human rights. But the fact is that women are still being denied their human rights. And one of the very, very important and great picture is that it is a violence because of which the women are being denied their human rights and right to life with dignity. So the lack of education, poverty, malnutrition, poor health services is nothing but the facet of violence which deny human rights to women. If you look upon the data, whether that of the infant mortality rate, you will find the female feticide is there, female infanticide is there. If you look at the situation of anemia, we find that more percentage of young girls are suffering from the health issues. Their hemoglobin is very, very low. They are anemic in nature. And even if we look at the picture of literacy, we find that from 1951 onwards, not much picture has changed so far as the literacy is concerned. And as per the census of 2011, the female literacy rate has been 65.46 only as compared to that of men 82.14. So still, though women are being put into education, they are getting literate, but still the data-wise situation is not very praiseworthy. And if you look at the data provided by the World Health Organization, the latest report of 2020, it states that intimate partner violence is the most prevalent form of violence against women. And 6% of the women who is in the reproductive age, 15 to 49 years, they are sexually assaulted by someone other than their intimate partner. 27% have experienced physical and sexual violence by an intimate partner. And in India, as per WHO data, this proportion of intimate partner violence is 35%. So this silence towards negation of human rights needs to be broken if we want to advance the human rights for the women. And here, not only the women, but men too have a duty and a role to play in averting and combating violence against women. So now let us analyze what are the barriers in the way of equality and access to justice to women. So in the case of Aparna Bhatt versus state of Madhya Pradesh, it is a recent case of 18th March 2021. Justice Ravindra Bhatt quoted Henrik Ibsen. He is a 19th century author and says that a woman cannot be herself in the society of the present day, which is an exclusively masculine society, with laws framed by men and with a judicial system that judges feminine conduct from a masculine point of view. So a 19th century author is being quoted in the 21st century in 2021 that the things have not changed. Still we are having the patriarchal system where our judicial system, our legislative department, everything is being dominated by men. Because we all know the situation of Supreme Court judges. Out of 34, only 4 are women judges. So still women need to have more equal positions so far as this higher positions is concerned, either in judiciary or in parliament. And you all know that in parliament still the 33% reservation bill is pending since 1993. And men are not ready to give the women their due share in the parliament. Though at the panchayat level they are getting the 50% reservation. So even after the 70 years of republic, this concept of equality is like a fading star for the woman because of the paternalistic and misogynistic attitude which are reflected in social attitude but also in our judicial orders and judgments. You all must have heard about the judgment of Assam High Court that a woman need to wear the matrimonial marks. Or you must have heard the case of High Court Madhya Pradesh, where the judges asked the rapist to marry the girl whom he had raped. So that kind of psyche is still there in our society, and even the judges are sometimes very, very insensitive and suffering from the stereotype behaviors. So this violence, this discrimination against women is very, very systematic in nature, and it is strengthened by the patriarchal social norms as well as intra-gender hierarchies, because women are also subjecting other women to violence, because at every forum, in the conference and seminar, we have to hear that it is the women who are violating the rights of women or negating them the human rights or not giving them the due positions in family or in other things. So that is a problem of our society. Just a second. So besides this patriarchal attitude and besides this gender hierarchies which are there intrasex and intersex, there are power unequal relationships also between men and women, because we all know that physically the men are stronger than women. It is by nature. It is by nature the physiology of women which is responsible for the subjugation of women in the society, because she cannot match the masculine strength of a man. So that kind of things are there unless a woman is trained physically. Like in olden times, we do learn about the stories of Jhansi Ki Rani, etc., or the Ahilya Bai. So they were trained physically in horse riding and everything. So unless and until that kind of things or the trainings are there, women are physically inferior by nature to men, and that has been the reason that because of which also the women are being sexually assaulted and otherwise abused. So in India, if we look upon the data which has been provided by the NCRB, we find that a lot of violence is not only by the strangers but by the own family members, because the cases of incest are there, the sexual abuse by own family members, and in more than 90% of the cases the abusers are the family members or the near relatives only. So there are various barriers to justice and equality to women, and it can be divided into social, economic, political, and legal. Socially speaking, there is class divide, lack of education and awareness. Economically speaking, still there is lack of financial resources for women in accessing the justice, as well as in spite of the fact that women have been given the right and right to property in the ancestral property, but still they are not getting their due share. So because of this low economic position, they are not able to realize the position of equality. Then the attitude which is there in the courts, within the litigants, and the insensitive police, that also denies the right to dignity and equality to women. Then there are procedural delays in the courts, there are unexplained adjournments, hostile witnesses, poor legal aid system, lack of awareness of law for the women, an apathetic attitude of judiciary and the police and other administrative authorities. These are the reasons, the barriers which are there, because of which the women are failing to enjoy their right to equality which have been guaranteed by the Constitution of India. So in order to advance their human rights, or for the advancement of the human rights, or for ameliorating the condition of women, what efforts have been made by the legislature, by the government, and by the judiciary. So if we look upon the scenario of 1971, for the first time, a committee was appointed on the status of women in India. And this committee was appointed by the Ministry of Education and Social Welfare in order to study the status of women in India. And this was because of the United Nations request to give a report on the International Women's Year in 1975. So in 1971, the Committee on the Status of Women had two special tasks. Number one was to examine the constitutional, legal, and administrative provisions that have a bearing on the social status of women, their education and employment, and secondly, to assess the impact of these provisions. The committee concluded that there was an increase in the marginalization of women in the economy and society. So this committee gave its report in the name of Towards Equality, but found that no, because by the time of 1971, much legislation was there so far as position of women is concerned. The special laws were also there, but still the demographic situation was that there was declining sex ratio, there was disparity in the life expectancy, and there were difficulties involved in the women's access to literacy, education, and livelihood. So by 1971, India had failed in its constitutional responsibility of gender equality. And then in 2001 also, when the national policy on the empowerment of women came in 2001, it is stated. So a long gap is there from 71 to 2001, but still the situation has not changed so far as the position of women is concerned. It says that all forms of violence against women, physical and mental, whether at domestic or societal level, including those arising from the custom, traditions, or accepted practices, are increasing, and still they need to be dealt with effectively in order to eliminate its incidents. And you all know about the case of Nirbhaya of 2012, because of which a high-level committee was appointed in 2013 to study the status of women by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And this committee was formed on the recommendation of a committee of governors, which was constituted by the President of India. So this committee's mandate was to undertake a comprehensive study on the status of the women since 1989 and to evolve appropriate policy interventions based on contemporary assessment of women's economic, legal, political, educational, health, and socio-cultural needs. So this committee made exhaustive deliberations both at the central level, at the state level. It went for the regional consultations also and involved all the stakeholders. And on the basis of this high-level committee report, a draft national policy was prepared in 2015 for the women. So this draft national policy for women 2015, that is for the advancement of the various human rights of women. The priority areas for this national policy have been health, including food security and nutrition, education, economy, governance and decision making, violence against women, enabling environment and climate change. So several things have changed since the past policy of 2001. Women attitude towards themselves have also changed. Their expectations from life have also changed. And this new draft policy has shifted its focus from welfare to right-based approach. In 2001 policy, various measures were suggested for the welfare of the women. But if we look upon the policy of 2015, we find that more right-based approach has been adopted and more rights are being conferred upon the woman. Though this policy is not as such implemented in true spirit, but some of its provisions have got place in various legislations which have been amended in the present times. And in present parliament also, as you all know, that ART bill is to be passed. So this policy of 2015 has gone a long way in bringing right-based approach for the women so that they can enjoy their human rights. And so far as the operational strategies under this policy is concerned, it tries to create the enabling environment through continued and additional initiatives.